Yeah, so this is gonna be a real quick off the cuff video. This is not a prepared written video. I didn't write nothing down, so it's just something I wanted to go over real quick. I've been covering O to the 4 and CCK and Lil Bucks and all that stuff that was, I cover Bucks as a rapper, but then also there's all that gang stuff that goes on and around him. Sometimes I'm hesitant to use the word gangs because that puts a negative connotation on these guys and gives the government fuel and ammunition to paint them in a certain light. However, if you run around calling yourself, O to the 4 and CCK and all that, you're calling yourself a gang. So I just want to point out something real quick. When you Google West Philly gangs, just on Google, you just Google West Philly gangs, this is what comes up. There are dozens of groups across the city: O to the 4 in Southwest, the Clappers in South Philly, Zoo Gang in North. Then there's YBC, originally based in Mantua, a section of West Philly. YBC quickly became known for shootings, as well as writing merciless songs in which they mocked victims and their families. And all of that obviously is true, even that little thing about YBC. So listen, think what you want about me and my coverage and my reporting, but all this stuff is on the internet. It's out there. If it wasn't me talking about it, it'd be somebody else. Now that's outside of law enforcement. Law enforcement, the cops, they got $800 million a year to spend on investigating these crimes, on subpoenaing things and going through people's phones and Instagrams and cyber security teams and cyber gang units and all these gun violent task force and all this shit that they put money towards. I'm just a dude with a YouTube channel, so all that stuff about I'm helping them out and I'm laying things out for them, I disagree. And the reason is because when you look at a case like this guy Jaylen Mickens, who was recently sentenced to up to 50 years in prison for this 4th of July 2021 shooting of a barbecue held by Sikar Johnson Jr., who was a clothing designer in West Philadelphia. I was hoping they had a picture of him. I'll put one up. But yeah, so
to the 4. Today we want to send a very clear message to the members of O to the 4. You like that name? How about go to the jail? Because that is where you're going to go.
District Attorney Larry Krasner and all them, they know about all this shit. That whole O to the 4, you're going to go to the jail. That all started well before I started even really covering this stuff. That they've been investigating shit like this. So I'm not putting nothing together for nobody, just to make that clear. But anyway, back to the story. Jaylen Mickens, who was, according to the newspaper, was a member of the West Philly gang O to the 4. O to the 4. Okay. And it says that a 22-year-old Philadelphia man who admitted to taking part in 3 shootings in one night that left 2 people dead and 5 others wounded was sentenced to 22.5 to 50 years in prison on Friday. This article came out January 5th, 2024. So that would be last Friday he went to jail. He went to prison, excuse me. The killings were part of a bitter year-long gang war that gripped West Philadelphia with fear. Common Pleas Court Judge Scott J. O'Keefe sentenced Jaylen Mickens to 17.5 to 40 years in prison for his role in fatally shooting Salahuddin Mahmoud, 21, and Sikar Johnson Jr., 23, at the July 4th, 2021 barbecue at Johnson's store on the corner of 60th and Walnut Street. Johnson was throwing a barbecue as a way to show his appreciation for the community that helped support his clothing brand, Premier Band, and 2 others were also wounded. The 3rd shooting he participated in that day. 3 others were wounded in the first 2 shootings. Mickens was additionally sentenced to 5 to 10 years for a charge of conspiracy to be served consecutive to his sentence for the 2 third-degree murder charges. It goes on to say, after Mickens, who was part of the gangs, was sentenced, Friends and family of Johnson and Mahmoud expressed anger and disappointment that a harsher prison term was not imposed on the man who killed their loved ones. The justice system, Mahmoud's mother, Lenora, said, had failed them. Back in October, there was an article titled "Justice and Deadly Shooting Spree," and it was talking about Skip here, or Jaylen Mickens, and when he pled guilty, it says a 22-year-old man's role in a gang feud that left at least 53 people shot in less than a year ended Thursday when he pleaded guilty to nearly a dozen crimes, including murder. Jaylen "Skip" Mickens, dressed in a red jumpsuit, stared straight ahead as he pleaded guilty to 11 charges, including 2 counts of third-degree murder related to his part in 3 shootings in one night in 2021 that left 2 young men dead, 5 injured, and a community in mourning. So prosecutors say that he was part of a street group called 0 to the 4, and he drove through West Philadelphia on a hunt for members of a rival gang, 524. Now, I've barely ever talked about, I might have mentioned them, but I don't ever talk about 524 in any of my videos. I've not made a video on them. Like I said, I've mentioned them, but this is further proof that there's so much more investigating going on in my YouTube videos. There's a very rare criticism that I get, but I just kind of wanted to knock that back a little bit. The feud originated, Palmer said, when Lacey Woodson's uncle, Frank Tooley Smith, was fatally shot in December of 2020. The group 0 to the 4 blamed 524 for his death, and in the 11th month that followed, the rivalry resulted in dozens of shootings. In total, 53 people were shot as part of the group's back and forth, Palmer said, and 16 were killed. 16 were killed. More than half of those shot, Palmer said, were bystanders. More than half of those shots were bystanders and not members of the group. So this is why I speak out about this shit. Listen, if it was just gang members killing other gang members, there wouldn't be really much to kind of bitch about. You know, these people chose the street. That's what they're going to do. I believe that people make their choices and you deal with their consequences. But when you're starting to affect innocent people, kids, when you're drawing in 11, 12, 13-year-old members to your gang, that's when I gotta speak up and speak out, because then it's not just a mind your own business situation anymore. Then it's like you're affecting other things besides whatever you got going on in the streets. So to continue, among the innocent who died were Sikar Johnson Jr., 23, and Salahuddin Mahmoud, both killed, Palmer said, when Mickens, Lacey Woodson, and 2 others fired 103 shots into a barbecue Johnson was hosting at his store on 60th and Sampson Streets on July 4th, 2021. A 16-year-old girl, also innocent, was also shot multiple times, but survived. Another young woman was cut by glass and shrapnel. The shooters, Palmer said, were aiming for 524 members who was at the gathering and fired indiscriminately into the crowd. Johnson died in his father's arms. The intended target wasn't struck. Johnson and Mahmoud, he said, had no affiliation with the gangs. Their deaths shattered the lives of their loved ones and the greater West Philadelphia community. He took care of all of us, Johnson's aunt, Leah Ross, said of her nephew outside the courthouse. Before Mickens, Skip, and Lacey Woodson, Pistol P, shot up the barbecue, they targeted 2 houses nearby. First, just after 8 p.m., they drove down the 1600 block of South 54th Street and shot 2 young men multiple times. 2 hours later, around 10:35, they shot a 16-year-old at 60th and Walton Streets, which is like a 2, 3, 4, 5 minute drive away from 60th and Sampson, excuse me. So this was a Daily News article written by Ellie Rushing from the Philadelphia Daily News, Friday, October 13th, 2023. So here's Pistol P's court docket. He's charged with murder, criminal attempt, reckless assault, aggravated assault, another aggravated assault. He's charged with a lot. And yeah, I couldn't find his court date, so I'm just gonna leave it there for now. I will be back later on with another video, and until next time, y'all be safe.
It was sentencing day for a gang member in Philadelphia involved in 3 shootings in Philadelphia, including one at a holiday block party that left 2 people dead. Since his arrest, authorities say gang activity in the community slowly eroded and crime actually dropped. NBC 10's Miguel Martinez-Valle was in court for today's sentencing and joins us live from the courthouse with more this afternoon. Miguel.
Yeah, Jackie, today a judge inside of the Criminal Justice Center sentenced Jaylen Mickens to 22 and a half years in prison at least. Now, this for his role in the 2021 July 4th block party shooting that killed 2 young entrepreneurs in West Philly, 2 beloved community members. Meanwhile, the district attorney saying Mickens was a part of a gang war that really terrorized the community, but telling us today that the 2 gangs involved no longer exist. 22 and a half to 50 years in prison. That was the sentence for Jaylen Mickens, who pled guilty last October for his role in 3 gang-related shootings in West Philly on the 4th of July, 2021.
In Philadelphia, there is a right to have a barbecue, to have a block party, regardless of what neighborhood you live in.
In court today, loved ones of fashion designer and business owner Sakar Johnson Jr. and Salahaldin Mahmoud. Both men died when more than 100 gunshots were fired into a crowd. The DA's office saying they weren't the target and had no ties to the ongoing gang war that led to the shooting.
I don't know what it was about. I know it wasn't about him. He don't have no beef.
We spoke to Sakar Johnson Sr. back in 2021, hours after he witnessed his son's death. While he didn't want to talk on camera after today's sentencing, in court, Mr. Johnson spoke directly to Mickens, saying, quote, "Every day you're going to think about it like I do, saying the same thing. I wish I didn't do it."
This sentencing is a tribute to the value of forensics. It is a tribute to the value of deep dive investigations.
DA Larry Krasner saying today's sentencing, along with the arrest of multiple members of the groups known as O2-4 and FSB, have led to a 24% reduction in shootings in the 18th district and a 19% reduction in the 19th. He said the teamwork between police and his gun violence task force have put an end to these 2 gangs in the area.
O2-4 go to the jail. Well, O2-4 went to the jail. O2-4 is no more.
And we know that a second defendant in this case still has to go to trial. I'm Miguel Martinez-Valle, NBC 10 News.
Mickens again sentenced to at least 22 years in prison. Miguel, thank you for that.